All right, so thank you, Quay, for joining us today. For those who are not aware, Quay is a former Code the Dream student. So he will be speaking today on his journey in Code the Dream and afterwards in his current work with designing, I believe. So I'll let Quay take it away.
Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Name is Quay, Quay Weston, or nickname like Kane, Kain. If you would like, I use he, him pronouns. Pleased to meet everyone. I have on a black sweatshirt, has the word Black Genius on the front of it. Have on my black frames as well, and a cool set of headphones that are very generic and very simple. So I'm glad to be here, of course. I'm excited to talk to you all. Many names I've heard over the years now. Um, New faces, some faces from my cohort as well. Lori's here. So I'm excited to talk with you all today about journey mapping. So what I'm going to do here is share this presentation with you all. And if you can see it, I would like a thumbs up if you can. Cool. I know there's always like, can you see my screen? There's always there's that question all the time. So I'm hoping to alleviate some burden of having to answer that question and unmute every time. So yes, again, my name is Quay Weston. I am a UI UX designer at a company called Attain. It is literally down Davis Drive from the Frontier, so I'm very, very close to you all. I actually live in between that short space, so I'm super close to both, and was excited to visit you all last summer, well, early summer slash like late spring, just to see some faces and say hello to people. And I was able to shake hands, which was a thing last year or the year before that. So yeah, excited to be here again and talk to you about my process, kind of where I've been before, during, and after Code the Dream, and in hopes of connecting with you all, staying engaged with the organization at large, and then being of service however I can. So I think what I'll do, I think I'm going to just jump. So uh, I hope to cover like a few different things. There's about four different points. The first one is just talking about the idea that life is not a linear process. And I think largely in like design, at least the world that I've seen and the people I've been talking to and engaged with, a lot of thought and ideas are shaped and formed in this way that seems like everything is just generic and standard and there's one way to do things. And I'm sure we all can understand that that's not quite the case. And then I'll be kind of going through the how might we question, which is a frame that we use in design, and then my own personal journey, and then hopefully some insights and next steps of my process that I found, and then some ways that we can connect and stay in touch. So I'm assuming or estimating this might take 30 to 40 minutes. If there's like pauses, that's fine. I don't want to take too much of your time. It is like Thursday and the world is in a really weird place. So I don't want to, burden anyone. Uh, let's see. So first thing I want to do, and I think it would be irresponsible if I did not, is I want to take a moment to just check in with our heads and hearts, if we can. Um, what I have on the screen is a scale of emojis or representations of some feelings, maybe. So item one is a winky kind of wild face. If that's how you feel today, that is fine. Uh, the second one is a kind of down, maybe sleepy, tired. All of those things is number two. Number three is a cool, calm, and collected emoji. And number four is a smiley, maybe excited face. So what I love to do is in the chat, if you would put in for yourself how you are feeling today or at this moment, be it one, winky and wild, two, kind of down, maybe somber, number three, cool, calm, collected, and four, smiley and excited. And I'll try to watch that because I know Zoom sometimes is odd about how it lets you see stuff. Let's see. Let me see. Interesting. Okay, where's my chat box? Okay. Nick, I got you unmuted. Can you help me with something?
Um, yeah.
Yeah, stay unmuted if
Thank
you will. Could you show me some of the or tell me some of the numbers that you see in the chat for feelings and emotions? Because I can't see the chat anymore, which is fine. I'll work through that.
um
And you can just say the numbers. You don't have to say the person's name.
oh, got you. All right. So can I say everybody's name? Everybody's cool with that? No?
No, just go with the number.
All right. All right. So somebody's feeling like a two, and then the next person got a two, and then another person another person got a two,
Mm-hmm.
another person is feeling three,
Yep.
one person's feeling like one,
Mm-hmm.
another person feels like three, one person feels like two, and I feel like one,
Mm-hmm.
and another person feels like three.
Got it. Got it.
And
Okay.
then somebody is sick.
Awesome. Thank you. Got it. So I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And I can finally see the chat again. So I should be good. So thank you for that. So yeah, I think the only thing I'll say is thank y'all for even offering what you're feeling or maybe thinking about or all of those sorts of things. I think it's important because this world that we find ourselves in does have an effect on us. And I think one thing that I've been trying to do is like really be honest and acknowledge how I'm feeling as I move through things. I think today I'm probably in between two, three, and four altogether. Um, so I think I am glad again to be here, which is where the four comes from, my happiness. The three, cool, calm, collected, I'm just generally how I am. And then two, the somberness is around probably my like emotional, mental state among all the things that are happening in America, the place. So thank y'all for sharing that. So this next piece is going to take maybe 5 or 6 minutes. But what I'm hoping to do is use this five whys activity as a way to kind of ground ourselves and also find like connection points for many of us. And I think what I would love to do is, if you will, I would like you to answer the question, and this is either in a notepad, in your own mind, however you would like to. Just think about the question, why did you join Code the Dream? And that this can be personal to you. You don't have to share just yet, um, but feel free to answer the question of why did you join Code the Dream? It can be a word, a sentence, or a series of thoughts. And I'm going to do this with us as well, and also note and take track of time. So I'll give it like 45 seconds for you to just answer or write, why did you join Code the Dream? Like that. Became a code ninja. I like the word ninja. That's one of my favorites. I love ninjas. Okay, we got about 10 seconds on this one. All right. Uh, I like that, TC. I'd love to hear more about that. So question 2, we have the why to that statement that you just wrote, right? So the second piece is I would like to know why your first answer is what it is, right? So for example, my answer to the why did I join Code the Dream was I wanted to learn to code to strengthen my technology skills. And now I'm going to say why that was important to me. Does that make sense? If not, just let me know. So why your first why? All right, got about 5 seconds for that one. All right. And if it isn't obvious what I'm going to say next, the third piece is to write why your second why is important to you. So my second piece was I wanted to change careers at a particular point. So now I'm going to put why that why. So this is going to help hopefully bring out some roots and also bring hopefully to the front a thing that you're passionate about or deeply considering. So take a few seconds to respond to that second why with why that why. It's a lot of whys. Hmm. And okay. I hear that, Nick. I like that. Makes sense to me. I wanted to use creativity and innovation. Okay. And then for the next step, I'll give this one maybe 30 seconds. Why that why above? So my third one was I wanted to use creativity and innovation more. And now I'm going to ask myself why that is important to me. So this is the fourth why right now. Mm-hmm. And about 10 seconds here. Okay. And now for the fifth why, or your last point, you will just put why that why. Good question, Crystal. Great question. So this will be our last one. Just answering Y to the previous Y. So you should have 5 in total. And for those who just joined, it's completely okay. You'll hear a little bit of what we're doing once we wrap up this last one right here. Have about 10 seconds for this one. Okay, cool. So that was right around 5 minutes and a little bit. Awesome. So what we just did, for those who weren't able to participate at that moment, we did a 5 whys activity where we started answering the question, why did you join Code the Dream? And from there, we dug a bit deeper into why that why before was important to us. So for example, my original why was I wanted to learn to code and strengthen my technology skills. And then my final why ended up being that I wish for new ways of thinking. Ultimately, what I found was wanting to code and learn technology was connected to changing my career, which was connected to like being more creative and innovative, which was connecting to the fact that I love to try and like make new things, which is connected to me being interested in new ways of thinking and doing things. So that's where I ended up. Could we have a couple people, if you are interested, maybe share what your original answer was for why you joined Code the Dream, and then maybe what your root answer was at the end?
I'll share.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen.
My original why was I wanted to learn programming in an affordable and flexible way. By affordable, I mean $0 because that's what I could afford.
Right.
And then my final answer was to feel valuable. It kind of the progression there was like wanting to know what I could do and wanting to know what I could do so that I could figure out like my purpose, like what I could offer the world and then why, so I could feel valuable.
I love that. That's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Does
Yeah, I don't
anybody
mind
else?
sharing.
Okay. Check it out, Kwasi.
So I joined Code the Dream because same as Crystal, I wanted to learn programming at an affordable price. I was very close to actually paying for a boot camp before I could learn Code the Dream. So I was very happy to find Code the Dream when I did, because I was about to spend $20,000. And my last why is to continue to learn. I think what drew me to program is I just love the fact that there's always something to learn, and I love the challenge. Yeah, I love the challenge of it. Not getting bored is something that I really appreciate. So that's kind of why I joined. That's why I wanted to learn how to program.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And were you able to join the 5 whys activity, or were you able to do this one?
I was just part of it though.
Okay, awesome. That's completely fine. And what was your endpoint again, if you don't mind? Like why the whys? Sorry.
Yeah, my endpoint is, I mean, I would love to ultimately be able to teach it
Mm-hmm.
to people who come from my neighborhood ultimately.
Got it. Got it. So I hear like some desire to learn to then teach
Yep.
your communities, people you're connected to, and people back home. I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. So again, this activity I actually find really helpful for just general things. I use it sometimes when I'm about to buy something that I don't necessarily need. So I did this with like a computer or something, and I was just like, okay, I don't actually want this thing. So that was the 5 whys activity, and thank you all for sharing. And I'll move into where hopefully we are going. It won't take too much time, I believe. So the first thing, I just want to start with like a pretty definitive statement in my mind. And it's that just the idea that life is not linear. And in the design world, what I found, both design and development, and also the tech world in general, is it seems to be like a very simple, um, linear path that's drawn out, right? And we're given these ideas that, okay, you start, you go to school for computer science, you learn all about computers, the ins and outs, and then you go and become a developer, and then you make a lot of money, and then you retire, right? Or you become a designer and you're like this abstract, free thinking, free flowing person, and then you go and like draw a bunch of bubbles and circles, and then everybody likes it, and then they spend a lot of money on it, and then you're like famous and successful. um, so I recognize early on that most of these things were not true, right? Most of the people in my industry that I've run into, they did not go to school for design. They did not go to school for development. They either went to boot camps. They either learned on their own. All of these types of things that I consider to be uh, non-traditional, quote unquote, right? So that statement has been true to me throughout this process of learning to become a UI UX designer, and also even the idea of finding it in the first place. So again, what I meant is what we do in UI and UX is like create these journey maps, and we have like a user or a person in mind, and we try to follow the process of them engaging with the product or something that we make, and then we try to track the feelings that they might have up until the point of success, right? Be it continuing to use applications, staying on Facebook for 7 hours a day, right? Like all of these worlds kind of try to take an ideal person and create a pathway for them to like really love their products. But I realized that this linear idea wasn't only in like this design and development framework, but also in just like general ways that we think about life. So even as far as simple as life itself, we find that people are like, okay, your track is you go to school, you either go to college or to the military, you graduate. If you're in the military, you use it to go to school, you get a job or you start a business, you work for a really long time, you move up, and then you're successful, and then you retire. Simple, right? And that's at least what they think is supposed to be. And also is the same for like careers. So you start a career, you find a job you like, you're like a junior first, then you're like mid-level, then you're like senior, then you're manager, then you're like senior manager, then you're like an executive or a C-suite person. And I think for me, I really had to understand and also like challenge this idea that it was just a smooth path and that everyone is like this ideal person, right? And I started questioning like, okay, so what does this mean if I am not a white male? What does this mean about people who are not, when you add layers of sexuality and identity, gender, class, like all of these layers, ability, right, or disability, as some people call it. But you have to add in these layers because how do you create tools and worlds and things that people use without considering like who they are? And it felt like in my world, even meetings that we just had today, right? We talk about these 1 to 2 ideal users or people that we're building these things around. And it's been important to me to really think deeply about equity and accessibility because a lot of the things that we make are not for everybody. And they think we think they are, have these ideas that they are, and often they leave out many groups who have been historically oppressed and historically marginalized. So it leads me to this how might we question. And rather than like how might we like just create products that everyone loves, it leads me to the thought of how might we design equitable and accessible worlds where outliers are the center, right? So thinking about worlds, I don't mean like planets per se, but I do mean like the products that we create, the tools and the spaces that we make up. And then the outliers being marginalized groups and minority groups. So what I had to do in my experience, even to getting to Code the Dream, was like really pick apart what things I really liked, what things I loved, and to Kwasi's point, when I even was looking into boot camps, I had a friend that told me about one. I think he was in Project Shift, and then he was telling me about all these other boot camps and things I might be interested in. And I was like, okay, so where's the program for people who can't pay $20,000 for a boot camp, right? And I was one of those people because no, it's not happening, right? So I'm like, okay, if this is the paywall to this world, then there something has to be something else has to exist. And thankfully, Code the Dream did. So thinking about this journey map and this idea of this like super linear path, I then started thinking a bit more deeply about like who I was as myself. This picture that you will see on the left is a picture of me. Thanks, Kwasi. Have a good one. This picture of me, I am a cake lover. I still enjoy cake to this day. It's one of my very favorite things. As you can see on the picture, it is smeared across my face. It's my jam. It is what I do. Thanks, Crystal. Have a good one. And then I had to start thinking more about, oh, she's not talking. Crystal's not talking to me. She's talking to Quasi. That's funny. So I had to start thinking about where I was from, right? Thinking about the things that I like. So my hometown is Pantego, North Carolina. It's a very rural community in Eastern North Carolina. So super far, from, well, about 3.5 hours from here. It's a town, unincorporated township that has 170 people. Um, all of these people are either white, black, or older. Nobody moves in, everybody moves out. So I had to really consider like what my identity was when thinking about where I wanted to be, or even the places in which I saw myself being successful or growing in. Um, so, what this next slide does or talks about is a little bit of my personal journey mapped from 2009 to 2019 up until joining Code the Dream. Um, what you will see are a few different points. The top line, the blue line, is my design. On the left, it kind of tracks 0 to 10, how much I love the thing. And on the bottom, from 2009 to 2019, it tracks the things that I did. And what I'm hoping to show here is that oftentimes the things that I love to do were not related to work and they weren't related to my education. And that black line at the bottom is my work line. So 2009 kind of covers like when I first got to UNCG. And I majored in political science and thought I wanted to be a lawyer, which is hilarious when I think about it now. And in 2010, I added like a sociology minor. So you see like a little bit of an increase in my love meter. And then it kind of drops in 2013 when I graduate college. And I'm like, dang, I don't have any job prospects. So you see some of those changes in this line. But what you may notice are my service work, the service work that I was doing or creating or in community with others always stood higher than the jobs that I took. And then my design work was slowly growing in the background, but always stayed at a high level of a thing that I love to do. And it helped me to, and once I kind of thought about this, leading up to Code the Dream, I was reading this book called Designing Your Life, by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, I want to say his name is. They're two like pretty well-known like professors. They're like architects and like industrial engineers, like some really brilliant, smart people. But they set out to create this course that students could take at Stanford of how to kind of locate yourself, and then think through the things that you want to do in like a design model where you test things out, you kind of draw out who you are, who you want to be, what things are important, and then you just commit to a series of tests. So what I did was combine these things to think through like what my highlight points were. And one of the things that I found was that I was really interested in impact. So service is always important. Thank you, Lori. Service is always important. Impact is always important. So the more impact the thing had, the more important it was. And if I care about something deeply, then I'm probably going to commit to it fully. And that was something that I learned about myself even yesterday, kind of putting this, kind of finalizing these slides. I looked at my college transcript And all of my political science courses, after I soon realized I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore, I was like at best a C student. Didn't care, didn't change my major because I felt like it was too late, but I finished it out. And then my sociology courses, when I added those and the African American studies classes, all of those are A's. And at the time, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I should probably look at a different field, because I had committed to my family primarily that I was going to be a lawyer, and they had very high hopes for that. So for my second insight, it was that I served more than I worked. And I know that there's this idea like if you serve or find a job that doesn't feel like work, and you won't work a day in your life. But for me, that hasn't always held true. The service that I do, I really care about that. I really love it. And I am committed to organizing and things like that. So insight three was that I've never really liked a job that was just about making money. Um, no problem. Thank you. So with the third insight is that yes, money is important, sure, and we do need it to live a life and like buy food and stuff. But if I commit to only uh, making the money, I will never, I would have never found things that I enjoyed doing or committed to things that didn't pay me right. So I think that's where service kind of combines, because oftentimes the organizing and those efforts are not paid, but what you get in growth and community and network and support is far more important and valuable to me. And then fourth, that my gifts were not connected to my degree. Like design has nothing, well, it has something to do, I think now, but political science, they didn't say anything about art and creation and design and innovation, like whatever, right? Like you follow the law, you understand what the laws mean, you understand how they work, and you kind of work around that. But I soon learned that many of the things that I was called in purpose to do were not taught to me in any particular formal setting. So what I did then, and as a UI UX person, what we do with these insights is just draft a few like next steps or action items of the data that insights that we find. Um, is for sure, Crystal, it's the truth. Um, so three of my things were: one, I will always attempt to work to serve. And two was to make money. Don't let it make you miserable. That's like a remix of a famous line from the movie Players Club. If anybody's seen that, shout out to you. And then thirdly is to seek non-traditional ways to learn and to teach. And I think these were right before February 2019 of joining Code the Dream. These were the things that I kind of let center me. And the things that I said yes to had to fall within this line of ideas. So insert February 2019. This is a picture of me. Wait, Nick's not in this picture. Nick's not in this picture, but Nick was there. Um,
I was in
there's
jail.
Linda. What? In
I,
real life?
I was in jail that day.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
hey, there's the answer. Now I know why you were there. Thank you for saying that, because I needed to know that. We got to talk. So there's others of us. And of course, this is me back here where the arrow is pointing to. Um, so I found Code the Dream similarly to Kwasi. I was looking up boot camps. Again, I had a friend in Project Shift that was like, hey, I think you really like this. I know you love technology. I think you could do it. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have this money to pay all this. So I was looking for other boot camps. And I think someone told me about Code the Dream. And then I sent a resume to Daisy. Daisy called me. We did like the screening thing. And then I think like the next week I was there. So this was our cohort and who we ended with. Um, some others who weren't there, uh, maybe that day, of course. But this moment was one that kind of changed, that took me from looking at those action items and then really kind of applying them in a real way. So Code the Dream was like, to me, a non-traditional way of learning code and understanding technology in the technology space. The organization itself was about serving and thinking about equity and accessibility, making sure that people were offered this course both for free and affordable and effective way was key for me. So fast forward to now, I am day to day. a UI UX designer. I'm a certified Section 508 trusted tester. So that includes testing web applications and software and mobile apps for accessibility requirements, making sure that contrasts are right for people who have no or low vision, making sure that assistive technologies can work with applications, making sure that all requirements mandatory for the most users to use these products are there. And that's something I'm really passionate about because it helps me to one, not only look at a product as like, what can we make the fastest, but how can we make it the most effective and the most usable? So that also includes some components of user research and doing interviews and talking with stakeholders of these applications and products to figure out what the actual needs are. And then Alex, got your question. I will definitely answer that. And then being proficient in a few UI UX tools, founding a organization of my own, which is a pay what you can, like branding, web, and product design agency, and then working on these two enterprise level systems with over like 100 and some thousand daily users. So really having to think about wide masses of user bases and all of the needs that are required there. But ultimately, what I think Code the Dream gave me and a true benefit to this and what helped with my transition was it gave me the technical language to be able to speak to the things that I was designing in the systems and the products and these applications and to understand what developers needed. And I think oftentimes there's like this barrier between designers and developers, like, okay, well, you're making all this pretty stuff, but we can't do it, right? Like we can't build it out. And then on the development side, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to build it in this framework and this is what I have and this is what I'm going to do, right? So you make it work in this way. But it gave me the language to be able to communicate well across that line. Well, not across the line. I don't want to keep the line there. Uh, Between those roles, it helps to make communication more effective. For me, at least, it taught me like how to understand Spectrum, how to understand like command line stuff, JavaScript things, GitHub, like talking to developers about that. They're like, oh, how do you know this? You're like just a designer person. So I'm like, no, that's not the case. I actually have learning and understanding of development now, thanks to Code the Dream, that I can share with them. And that helps to create more effective work. Then it also gave me, I think, an additional lens around equity and making sure that people understand that tech is not some uh, blocked off, guarded like fort, which it seems like a lot of the language kind of communicates. And that's this last slide here. Is a lot of the language that I hear is like how to break into tech or like how, and I'm like, why do I have to break into it? Like for what, right? And I think it assumes that it is already like a protected, guarded space that only like the wisest of the wise and the smartest of the smart can enter. And I think that really erases a lot of work being done by communities of color, communities who are outside of this quote unquote tech bubble. And it really helps me to understand that the opportunities that are being created shouldn't be uh, so guarded, it feels. So thinking through this piece has really been helpful. And I think Code a Dream was like the first run-in that I had with the tech world, but it gave me the ideas that like collaboration is important, communication is important, and also not just working with people who have been in the industry forever. It also helps to allow for like new ideas. Um, and I think that's what I have to share. So I'll be glad. I have some resources here. Like, I don't know if folks are interested in UX and thinking through UI and design things, but there's some resources here, and I'll make sure Lydia gets these slides so you can have like these links. But it has some cool, like Black Suit Design is a really great group. It's like a free Slack community. They have a website and directory there. The Black US Collective is on Medium, and they have some articles there if that's research you're interested in doing. And they also, one of the founders of Black US Collective put together this extensive like spreadsheet. So companies now use that spreadsheet when they're recruiting. So they'll send emails and say like, hey, got your email from the Black US Collective. repository, and we're sending out information about jobs at like Bandcamp. That was one that just came to me recently. And then there's some meetup groups, and then a really cool organization called Afrotectopia that combines like radical Black imagination and like Black radical tradition with technology. So they're really dope. And then on the right, you have like my contact information. If you want to email or text me, I put like a Google Voice thing. Feel free to reach out. That's completely fine. I'm open. Yeah, TC. I gotta use the Proton mail. It's important. Shout out to you. So yes, if you want to connect, that's completely fine. I love to stay connected. I'd be glad to do any like resume review, LinkedIn stuff, portfolio review if that's something people are down for, or if you're even just generally interested in like collective study or collective organizing around equity and accessibility and technology. I am completely open for those kinds of conversations. So feel free to reach out to me about that. And I see questions, and I would be glad to move into questions if there are any questions besides the one in the chat.
I have another question.
Okay, yeah, I'll answer yours, and then I'll do Alex's question here.
How did you become certified with the Section 508? We're trying to get it more accessible at
Awesome.
Dream. So
yeah, so if you go to, let me see, what's this URL? It is, I think it's section508.gov. I'm pretty sure that's literally what it is. Yeah, let me double check for you. Yes. So yeah, section508.gov. If you go there, they have like training. It's completely free. They have like online training, some webinars that you can sign up for, and you can basically become a certified tester. And they just send you like an email. It's like the Office of Accessible Systems and Technology. But anybody can do that. It's a like 6 modules. It includes some like kind of initial courses, understanding like what 508 is and why it's important. Then they walk you through like using the tools, and you use the tools like through the course, and then you do like this big practice exam at the end, and that's it. So it's really cool, and I think it'll be really useful if that's something you're interested in, and I see you are. So yes, I encourage anyone interested to do that.
thank you. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
Quay, is that something, just quick question, is that something people need, and I'm sorry if I missed you saying this, is that something people need to like really study for? Or like, I'm just wondering, would it be useful for Code the Dream to help support people? Like, oh, if anyone's interested in doing this, we'll have a cohort that meets every Wednesday to talk about it and then support each other.
That's really cool. No, that's a good point. I think that it doesn't require a lot of study. They give you like the documents to go through all the modules, but I'm the kind of person that if I know that there are other people working on something with me, I'm more accountable to them than just myself. So yeah, I think it could be a cool thing to have, like however many folks that are interested, or at least someone always that's available for that. Because as you build out things, it is really useful, honestly. So yeah, that could be a cool meeting group or study group or whatnot.
And maybe you'd even be willing to be a resource for the group. And
I sure would. How did you know?
I know that TC is and TC is one of our new senior developers, and they've been really active and involved in accessibility issues as well. So I know we do have someone on staff who's also really knowledgeable, but it would be great, I think, if you wanted to support that too.
Yeah, I'd be glad to help out in whatever way I can. TC, if you need any guidance around that, let's connect around it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I was actually just gonna say, actually my undergrad was in graphic design, and having come here, I see a great there's a great opportunity to work UI UX and design into the work that we do just generally.
Mhm.
So I'm heartened to see a graduate of the program go on to do more design work. So I'd love to just connect with you and see if there's anything that maybe we could do to sort of like get all this stuff sort of like more fully mainstreamed into the life of the organization. That'd be great.
Yes,
Yeah.
awesome. That'd be perfect. I would
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna put my email again in the chat so
Yeah, I'll
folks can copy it.
send
Right
you an
now,
email.
I
It'd be
think
great.
it's
Yeah.
on that slide. Awesome. Let's see. And then Alex's question was, what was your transition like from being in the class to finding this particular role? Okay, finding this job. Let me read it literally. So my transition was, let's see, I went to Code Dream February 2019, ended in August-ish, pretty sure. So between August and February 2020, which is when I joined the team, the majority of my time was spent in like finding communities of people who are interested in design. So I found like this meetup group. They were meeting in person. They do virtual meetups now. So that was, I was still working full time at a place, still working full time, while also like reading research and user interface design stuff on my work computer like all day. It was pretty wild. But so my transition was relatively me building my portfolio because I saw that UI UX, they require, almost everyone require a design portfolio. So they wanted to see like your user research skills, your web design skills, any mobile app design skills. So I spent those months putting together the portfolio that I would then show in February. I also was like on LinkedIn all the time, trying to apply for things, some leads, some not. Talking to like, I don't know how many recruiters I talked to, but several recruiters about different positions. What else? And then I was also just building some stuff on my own, like just trying it. So like I had an organization reach out and say, hey, and I was also, sorry, one important point, I was also doing like freelance graphic and web design. So ultimately what I did was took that work and tried to shape it to the language that was being used around UI and UX design. So they're like, okay, for UX, we really need someone who understands how to do user interviews to understand what people need. And I was like, well, shit, I've done, wait, can I say shit here? I guess, okay. I'm like, sorry. I'm like, well, shit, if I've been doing this before, like I've talked to people who are the product owners, right? So these are people who run these organizations and manage these sites. I've done stakeholder interviews with people. I've done user testing or like having friends go on people's websites I'm working on to like click buttons and make sure things work, asking questions about that. So it was really trying to find a language to put on the design work I was already doing, and then also trying to display that in a portfolio that then I felt confident about, where I could say, okay, I've done this before. And even in those interviews, a lot of the questions were like, okay, well, you haven't worked in tech before, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I haven't, which is why I'm here. But also, the ideas and the things that I've done should show that I'm capable of doing the things that you're asking me to do. And if I'm doing this by myself as one person, then what does that mean if I do that with multiple people? So that's my answer, Alex. Very long answer, but that's it.
Yeah, that's actually perfect. Thank you.
Oh.
Because we do get a lot of questions about interns knowing when they're ready. They always asking if they're ready to move on, but they never know if they are. But that's very helpful. Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you.
It looks like Peter's got a question. I don't know if you saw that one, Quay.
I was wondering if there's anything that Peter's question is, I was wondering if there's anything that you wish that you spent more time on or focused while you were with Code the Dream now that you're working as a professional. So my initial response would be, I think I wish I spent more time That's a tough one because I did like development, I did like coding, but I really love design. And I had to figure out how to make the two connect. Um, but I guess if there's anything I wish I spent more time on, it would be preparing, well, building my own confidence, honestly. So that when I applied for things, I didn't like discredit the work that I had actually done. So I think listing out and like writing out like literally the things that you have created, and also like knowing that those things are important and like they are actual work that maybe 2 to 3 people do on an actual Scrum team in this world that I've found myself in, is invaluable. And I think that's the thing that I wish I would have done a little bit more of, was like actually seeing like, okay, I know command line now. Let me write that down. I know what JavaScript is. I'm not like advanced, but I know what it is. I'm efficient enough to like do a thing. So really documenting all the things I learned and the things that I do know, because in the interviews, they kept asking me questions was like, oh, well, what do you think about what they say, like React? And I'm like, oh, I do know what that is, right? But I didn't mention that anywhere on my resume that I was familiar with React or understood React languages. So that would be my answer to you, Peter, is documenting the things that I do know, the skills that I do have, and actually, trusting that I do have those skills too.
That's a good point. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. Yeah. Nick, do you have a question?
Nah, I don't.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just
Okay,
inspired by your language right now.
Yeah, no. Language is important. And I think what I kept telling myself, just a moment of vulnerability. I think I kept telling myself, that's it, Alex, that because I had never worked in the tech field, that I knew nothing about it. Like I consistently told myself that, like, I don't have any idea what these people do. And I got there and I'm like, these people aren't that brilliant. Like they really aren't. Like they're cool and all, but they're not that brilliant. And
internally, I wondered about you after it ended, because I wasn't there for the conclusion, but I always wondered like where Quay go.
Yeah,
I think I asked man, she's gone too.
Linda.
Linda, yeah. I asked Linda about you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm here. I'm around. So again, open, available to connect and talk more and answer any questions, ask some questions, because I have questions to ask. Y'all are doing some really cool stuff. I've seen like press postings and these, I don't want to say the wrong word, VR escapes in Durham. Like I love it. So I'm excited to stay connected, hopefully, and open for whatever is needed. So just let me know.
For sure.
Yeah. So thank y'all. I won't hold y'all up, Lydia. If you have closing remarks, that's cool. If not, I'm going to be quiet now. So thank you.
Thank you, Quay. All I think I really have to say is just we really appreciate the time you've taken to speak with all of us. And it was great to hear from you. And yeah, that's all I can think of.
For sure. Thank y'all. Y'all keep doing the good work. Let me worry about these old school things.